Hey, what's up, guys? Metal571 here. Welcome to ASMR stream number 13. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see if this actually works. My stream health is orange. Oh, it better not be orange. I'm uploading at 10 megabits. Well, you guys can let me know if it's working. If not, I'll restart it. Okay, good. That's funny, because even my own live dashboard is not showing anything good, which is really funny. I guess I'm going to have to refresh it probably at some point. Anyway, yeah, I only have a, 13 megabit upload, so I'd pretty much upload at 10 meg for my streams here, which seems to work. Wow, this is really bad. All right, you know what? I'm going to refresh my dashboard here. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. I just want to be able to at least see myself. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's much better. Okay. So you guys were already talking about some stuff here. Noise canceling headphones. Yeah, I haven't heard any of those at home. Although I do remember the PXC 550 has a pretty poor measuring mid-range. Like it's got some like 4 or 5K like discontinuity in the frequency response, which just sounds bad. The same problem exists on the 4.20, 4.40, that kind of thing. I don't know what they're trying to do there with Sennheiser's driver, but that driver in particular is not very good. Not compared to the HD200 Pro and the, HD471i that Tile reviewed. Those are basically the same headphone, by the way. I never did review the HD200 Pro, though I actually do have one. It's not a bad headphone. It's just dark. But no other glaring issues. People are talking about the K245. Yeah, I haven't heard that yet. The K275 is awful compared to the K371, though. So if you think the 275 is okay, you should really try this one as well. Like, it was so bad, I was like, you know what, guys? I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to send it back. So that's what I did. I don't think I actually mentioned that in the 371 review because it was so unnoteworthy of a headphone. So, yeah, I just sent the 275 back completely. Let's see. Did K361 arrive yet? Nope. I know everyone is anxious to hear my thoughts on that, but they said they're going to send it to me, so it's up to them when they get it to me. So we'll see how it compares once I do have it, though. Yeah, this is the first time that Blue Butterfly says, I couldn't believe my eyes when your notification came out of nowhere and it's about Odyssey headphones I had never seen before. Actually, if you're really, really deep into the Odyssey lore, I guess that's what I'm going to call it, then you know the LCD1 was an actual, well, not a real product. It was kind of like a prototype where they stuck their planar driver into some OEM chassis, and that's what that actually was. So they used the name again for a real product for the first time. But yeah, this is the first time I ever released a review early. I know that's crazy for me, isn't it? Like, really strange. I had to work hard for that one. No, not really. Parametric EQ on macOS. I wish that existed. You know, I keep getting asked that. In fact, DMS asked me the other day, it's like, hey, do you know about any EQ for Mac? And I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. I hope somebody can put in the chat something that can be used for them, because I don't know of anything that's system-wide. KSC 75 with EQ. Yeah, I guess that's kind of an idea. It's definitely got that weird upper mid-range kind of dip spike kind of weird thing going on. It measures kind of bizarrely, but I've always thought the 75 had better resolution than the Porta Pro does, but it loses a lot of sub bass. So it's kind of like a trade-off one way or the other. The Axie pads on the Porta Pro do help, actually, the treble come back in line a bit, which is kind of interesting. And they also make it a lot more comfortable. Just picked up a pair of B&O H6s. Yeah, it's too bad those aren't made anymore because they're pretty fun. They don't have a great frequency response necessarily, but just the way their treble texture is really pleasing, despite measuring bright for some reason on Tiles rig. I don't know why. Oh, you just saw Dream Theater. Very nice. That must have been really fun. I don't play video games at all, so no, I won't play Red Dead Redemption 2 when it comes out. I might, at some point pick up a console again, even though I was a hardcore PC gamer before I quit. But I haven't done any of that yet. Base of the HE4XX, is it more than the 400i? It's supposed to be the same, I think, headphone basically as the 400i. I hate the treble on that headphone. It's annoying. I had to do a lot of EQ to get it to like a normal level. And what Olive, if you saw his review on those, decided to do is slap a bunch of different pads and then additional like sound foam in front of the driver. I'm not surprised. So if you're sensitive to treble, yeah, don't buy that hi-fi man. And in fact, a lot of hi-fi mans in general are pretty bright compared to my taste, if you will. Oh man, we got so many questions going this time. It's gonna be a tough one. Let's see what we got here. LCD1 questions. I know there were a couple things I didn't cover. I do still have them actually because I'm gonna be getting the Monoprice M570 to compare against these. Sorry about the lighting, guys. There's too much light coming from above. I gotta eventually fix my lighting further, but it's better than it was at least. Someone asked for internal dimensions of the pads. If somebody wants to see me measure them, I'll do it, but I still have them around. Everyone is asking about the Argon. I have to say, the Argon Mark III's bass was absolutely terrible when I heard it at Can Jam. I'm sorry if that hurts everybody's feelings, but it's making me really hesitant to even bother reviewing it, although I should ask Ryan for one at some point. And by horrible, I mean it had no detail. There was no definition of certain notes in the bass at all. And yet everybody's asking about how does the Argon Mark III compare? It probably doesn't, because I mean that's a closed back headphone anyway. This is an open back planar that actually has bass that extends to some degree and has actual detail to some degree. So I think that alone makes it interesting, but I don't think I would compare the closed and open back headphones like that anyway. And you guys know how I feel about 250 RP mods, man. I rustled so many feathers with that CMF Classic review. I think that was the review where I was like, I decided, you know what? If it's going to be that negative of a review, I'm just going to skip it. And then if you guys ask me about it in the live stream, I will be honest, but I don't feel like I should put the effort into making a full review on cans that I just don't like at all. That's just my opinion there. Oh, gee, you reached out to Odyssey for the LCD1. Yeah, I tried to, I told them about Olive's gadgets as well, so hopefully he'll be getting one. That'll be really nice to see. I'd really want to see how crazy I am. You guys can all tell me how bad these are, of course, once other people start ordering them. Because comparing them against the Sennheisers will be very, very interesting. I think for a lot of people, because they've got some advantages, they've got some disadvantages. People who are really, really used to the HD650 timbre, I don't think you're going to get that on these either. But the frequency response and the other parts of it, the technicalities are so good for such an efficient headphone that's portable that, although I wouldn't pay more than $400, I would say. In fact, when they asked me, I actually said, because I didn't know how much it costed, I was like, $300 maybe? And they were like, nope, $400. And I was like, interesting. But when you consider that they come with a case that can be driven off a phone and sound better than the treble in a Sennheiser, yeah, that's pretty interesting. And it's genuine leather on the pads too. They pointed that out. But anyway, yeah, I know a lot of people absolutely hate Odyssey, and I don't care because I like it. But however, the main problem with Odyssey's products, the big LCDs, is that their frequency response, as you know, is not particularly realistic. And this doesn't sound anything like that, actually, which is really interesting because some people trying to buy these and expecting LCD2 is going to be very confused. I think that's what I tried to indicate. Let's see. Have I heard of Ross and Rad Zero? I have not. Some people have. Hopefully they can talk about that in the comments. If I remember right, what was it that people did not like about the Rad Zero? I don't remember. Max Settings is in the chat here. He'll probably be able to say a couple words about that. I've never heard it at home. Putting the SRH 1840. Yeah, insert meme about the harmonic distortion on the high-end Shure openbacks right here. Because I actually have no idea what that headphone really sounds like. It's hard to get a hold of those high-end Shures. They're kind of old at this point, I think, now. Old meaning like 5 years old or something. How's the K371 holding up? I have no problem whatsoever. Yeah, I saw your post about it breaking or whatever. I've never had any of those issues at all. I have no idea how consistent the quality control is on the headphone considering its price range, so I don't know. But hopefully Wheezy, they're at least able to RMA it for you without too much trouble. I don't know how the RMA works over there on your side of the pond. At least I'm assuming you're on a different side of the pond than I am. But hopefully they'll fix that, because I didn't have any issues with it. And I've folded it numerous times now, so... but it's not, like built like it's not built like the LCD1 or the, the LCD2s or something like that, but I didn't have any problems with it. I would get the LCD1 or the M1060 for sure. Yeah, I think I made fun of the M1060 yet again in the LCD1 review, because it is just so bad to charge that much money for a headphone that was never completed in the first place. Buying a headphone and requiring it to be modified is not something I like very much. Although that's okay, because other reviewers cover the mods. I don't do that. I will review the headphone as is. Simple as that. The only thing I will do is, if companies like ZMF, like here's my Atticus over here again, it makes an appearance. I know. Ooh. What I will do is, if there's alternate pads that are recommended by the manufacturer, I'll try them, sure. But when it comes to the M1060, yeah, it's just it's such a pain, that thing. So I'm hoping that the new monoprice stuff will be much better. And in fact, the M570 really is just a Sendy Iva underneath, although the pads might be different. So we'll see how that compares. How's the soundstage in the LCD1? I just think I described it pretty well. It's basically not very wide, because the drivers are much closer to your ear, because it's not a huge ear cup like my LCD2 back there. So it's pretty intimate, but the good thing is that it doesn't have that 3-blob soundstage that the HD650 has. So like the imaging is more realistic. Like you've got the center images, you got in between, and you got the sides. It's not wide, but within that soundstage, I think it's more accurate. So I like that about it. But yeah, it's not like amazingly wide. So if you like a Q701 kind of a soundstage, you're probably not going to like the soundstage of the LCD1. Let's see. Thinking about upgrading Sandara to Ananda or Arya. I have not heard any of those three at home, actually, believe it or not. So I can't help with that one. Is there a wow effect? Oh, this is a good one. Going from the 598 to the HD600. I don't think it's a minor upgrade. But the interesting thing about going from the 598 and a 599 to the 600 and 650 is that you gain detail. Frequency response is not the same, but you clearly gain detail. It's like going from a 58X with a slightly more forward sound, which is essentially what the 598 is, to the 600, 650, which are more liquid sounding. They just convey the music better. It's not as hazed over. It's the concept of grain, actually. You'll kind of learn it by going from, say an MDR 7506 to a 598 to a 650. The grain is clearly reduced each level of those headphones, for example. But yeah, wow effects, I can't predict. Some people just put on, my LCD4 and they're like, hey, it's not my LCD4, but I showed the LCD4 to multiple people, and some of them were just like, sounds like music. The other ones were like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, it's $4,000. And they're like, oh, okay, never mind. So you get one of those, like, you get those reactions from people who have been in this hobby for a while. Will be like, how can you not hear the difference between X and Y? But that's, in my experience, most people are just like, you put a really expensive headphone on their head and they're just like, yeah, whatever, it just sounds like music. And I'm just like, okay. But that's the reality, And I always tell them, listen to your favorite song. Don't listen to some random audiophile recording, because that's not going to help you. If your music doesn't sound good with your headphones, I don't see the point. Why would I want to listen to audiophile test tracks all day? So that's a point that gets missed, I think, a lot in this hobby. Do I still recommend the HD800? Thank you for the donation, Ehsan Rashid. Sorry, I probably butchered that like crazy. The HD800 is a really, really excellent milestone in dynamic headphones. So I would say so. However, it needs so much EQ now that I really don't use it, except when I need to check the soundstage of another headphone. It's a soundstage reference. That's really how it exists in my collection right now. Obviously, as you can see, I still have it up there. But yeah, I hardly ever use it, because it's just really bright. It's really aggressive, and it really is annoying to listen to unless you're listening to like incredibly well-recorded music, which it does bring out the most of. That I will say also. But for me, the stuff I listen to for entertainment, not reviewing, it just doesn't work very well. And when you need like 10 dB of EQ to bring the 6K peak down to where I want it, it's just excessive. But, I used them as a daily driver for a while, and they were tolerable. They just needed a huge amount of EQ, so, But the reason why I don't talk about the HD800 that much now is actually because I don't see the point of it. Nowadays, when you have things like the Focal Clear as an option and the LX and the LCD2 phaser with EQ, I mean, even though it does soundstage better, I think there's other aspects of those headphones that are just as competitive now. So Nuno Ferraz says, want to go to the next level, have the HD660, and is the HD6 LCDX, wow, clearly two Sennheisers here. Is LCDX the next level? Yes and no. Again, like, the Odysseys have their own kind of signature. They have way less mids than even the 660, upper mids in particular, and way less upper mids than the 600 and 650. So, like, natural frequency response, no. But in terms of soundstage and detail, oh yeah, way more detail. Especially the LCDX. The LCD2 phaser is not super more detailed than the 650, I don't think, or the 660. People might be really disappointed to hear, but it's really the advantages of the bass, what the bass can do in terms of extension and slam and extent. And I said extension. It should be mentioned twice. The extension on the Odysseys is crazy good. And yeah, the soundstage is just so much better. So yeah, in general, yeah, but I can't say that I don't think there is such thing as a direct upgrade from the Sennheisers. Maybe the Otor would probably be one of the only direct ones, or the ALS, depending on whether you want to go darker or brighter, that sort of thing, you know. Oh man, so many super chats today. Thank you. Soundwave Tracks, you've been a loyal subscriber for a while. Thank you for the super chat. Would you say the difference in detail between the HD100 and LCD2 phaser is partly a matter of timbre, planar versus dynamic? No. And if you want to know why, that's very easy to answer. Look at the T50 mods. There's no inherent timbre necessarily to a technology, actually. It's really the way it's implemented. Like, the T50 is enormously, annoyingly bright most of the time, but even though it doesn't measure very bright. So that's a totally different timbre than the Odyssey LCD2. It doesn't sound anything like that. And that doesn't really sound anything like the way the Hyphamen sound in their bass and their treble. So it depends. But the detail and timbre are totally separate things in my definition. Detail is just, you know, the ability to resolve small details and be able to hear the texture of hi-hats and very, very dig into the distortion of an electric guitar, hear it like the amp rather than another layer of haze on top of it, that sort of thing. That's detail, not timbre, really. So it depends. They're sort of related, but for me, yeah, I would still do that. I would still take the LCD2 phaser. That's why I use that mainly. Let's see. Yeah, Max Settings says, from what I was saying earlier, I also have friends that like Beats more than any audiophile headphone. Yeah, some people are just like, is the bass good? And by good, they mean massive and way boosted. That's all people care about. That's what most people want. So, you know, it's a pretty niche hobby. That's just the way it is. Which review is next? I am doing actually it's on the floor right now. I'm doing the LCD2 closed back right now. And I'm going to talk about that compared to the Atticus in that review, which is turning out to be pretty interesting. We'll see what happens there. Alternatives to the Atticus. You know what's funny is the A900X, the Audio-Technica closed back that I still have around, is actually very similar sounding to the Atticus. I actually was thinking about putting the Atticus. The reason why it's actually here is because I was trying it out as a monitor for, you know, monitoring headphone to hear what the mic is recording here. And I tried it and I was like, nah, because without EQ, it's got a big 11K peak on it, which is annoying and exactly what I don't want in a monitoring headphone, because when I'm on axis here, the sibilance will just kill my ears and I'll turn down the volume on my interface, that kind of thing. So that's why it's out anyway, even though nobody asked me about that. Sorry. You have the LCD2 Classic. You heard the THX 900 has more, or TH900, I think is what you meant there, more bass slam. I would probably. I mean, the TH900, I haven't heard it, but it is known for its biocellulose slam in the bass, just like the X00, but probably more so, I think. I mean, the Emotique was already more detailed than the X00, and the 900 is supposed to be even more so. Although it depends. It can be really bright depending on which pads you're talking about being used on a 900. But if slam is like one of the most important things, you could track down an HE6, or yeah, the TH900 is an option for sure. Oh, this wood is somebody wants me to show the Atticus again. It's not that bright. It's a pretty dark purple stain on it here. I'm not going to refocus the webcam, but yeah, it is somewhat dark looking in reality here. But this is it's actually camphor. It's just the stock wood, but I had him stain it in a purple sunburst. It actually gets even darker toward the edges of it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Needs a lot of light to look good because it's kind of thick coating, I guess. Let's see what we got here. Blah, 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 blah. Wow, so much, but I can't even pick a question here. Should I, oh God, should I get the Philips SHB 9500 or the Fidelio X2? I don't even know what a Somic V2 is. The answer is no, none of those, absolutely not. How's the bass rumble on the Atticus compared to the Fostex variants? It's different. It doesn't have as much sub bass as much as it has mid bass, but that's mostly because of the Ori pads. If you use the suede icon pads on it, which I do occasionally, you lose some soundstage, but you get some sub bass extension. So that's different. If you're talking about rumble as in sub bass, then yeah, that's the answer to that one. Have any opinions on Headphone and Aria? No, I don't. I know the Ananda was very, very impressive when I heard it in a can jam, considering how easy it is to drive, but I'd have to have it at home to compare to the LC2 Phaser to know for sure. ELA closed. Well, just because they're not popular, though, Max, is not necessarily why they're also bad, but they are also bad, unfortunately. Not a fan of those. They're tuned way different. They had way more upper mids and treble than any of the higher end LCDs, but they also didn't have a good sound stage. And yeah, they just, I don't really like the L8s. I haven't tried the open back, but I'm sure that I heard that it's pretty compromised versus like an LCD2. And it wasn't that much cheaper when it was new. So yeah, I'd be pretty wary. I mean, I've seen those deals lately on Slick Deals. If you guys are on there, the EL8 Opens are going for like $250, I think. I have no idea which version that is. Apparently there was a huge retune in 2016 to them. So that's a total crapshoot as to which one you're going to get. And I haven't heard the Open at home. I've heard the closed. I own the closed. Unfortunately, I had to get rid of that. Don't buy the closed. Not even at $250. Don't do it. Best cheap planer with good bass extension. See, this is the real question. Right now, this is the real question. I'm hoping that the answer to that is either the LCD1 or the M570. And that's about as cheap as you're probably going to have to go. I think the 4XX still rolls a bit toward the bottom. If you don't care about anything else, I think the 4XX might have more bass extension than the Sennheisers, but it's not like a real planar bass. I remember the 400S came out a while ago, and that had some bass roll off despite being planar. So it's just, yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, LCD1 or the M570 are probably going to end up being my pick. We'll see what happens. There are advantages to both and disadvantages to both. This is really a portable that runs off of everything. I don't think the M570 is designed to be that. So it depends. The price trade-off might be okay. Because the M570 is so cheap. It's like $299 instead of $599 like the Sendy Iva is. So we'll see. Blah, blah, blah. Blah blah. HD660 or LCD1 worth double the price of the K712. I can't tell you what value would mean in that case. I don't like the K712 because the frequency response is all over the place. Some people seem to enjoy it. I don't think it sounds accurate at all. Depends on what you're doing, really. I mean, if you like the way the 712 sound, you're not going to get that frequency response anywhere else other than those AKG open backs. So you might not want to buy anything else if you really like that. It is a good one. As K712 is resolving the 650. Last time I compared those things, the 712 was more resolving, actually, believe it or not. But I don't like the I just don't like the frequency response of the 712. And it's a lot of work to try to correct it with EQ. It's all over the place. It's not like simple. Let's see. Oh yeah, the HE560 V1. Apparently those are really hard to find now, actually, believe it or not. Despite being really good, I had a V3 and it was terrible, but at least Flex told me last that the HE560 V1 is hard to find now because they're discontinued at this point, at least I think. I I'm not even worried about. No, yeah, max settings is not talking about the M560 at all, as far as I know here. He's talking about the HE560. That's the hype I'm in. Not the V2 and not the V3. Only the original. $300 for 712 Pro. Yeah, right. $300 for a 712 Pro. Yeah, again, you have to like that kind of signature with the mids. You can watch my review on those. I think I described it pretty well relative to the Sennheisers. They're pretty bizarre. They still got that 2.5K peak, but on the 712, they've got like a big dip right after that, and then it comes back, and there's 6K peak and a 10K peak, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the AKGs that much now. I kind of grew out of that sound signature. They're pretty unique, but yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Not now. K702 or the Fidelio X2. I wouldn't buy either of those either. The original MSR7 was kind of bright, but I have no idea what they've done since then. There's like been at least 2 more variants, and people are talking about them being very different or whatever. Yeah, MSR7B was one of the ones that people keep mentioning to me as different, and yeah, I have no idea, honestly. The K7XX sound pretty good with EQ. The problem with the K7XX is really simple. The bass is awful compared to the 702 and the 712. I don't know what they did to it, but last time I heard a 7XX, there was no slam at all. There was just nothing. There was no dynamics in the bass. It's dead. I have no idea what happened to that thing. And none of the other AKGs are like that. Thoughts on Stax? Rule number 1. Anybody who says Stax is the only good headphone is wrong. Rule number 2. I did review the L700, and it was pretty good, I think, for like $1,000 or whatever if you already have an Energizer. But yes, again, the frequency response is kind of weird. You've got this little 1.5K peak shout. I think a lot of the Lambdas kind of have that sound signature. And with the one I tested, despite everybody telling me I was wrong, it really didn't seal on my head, and it rolled off so fast below 70 hertz. So that was just the way it was. And I don't think the 007 and 009 are necessarily like that. That might be that specific Lambda. But yeah, no matter what I did, I tried to seal it on my mini DSP ears. I tried to seal it on my actual head, and I ran a sine sweep. Didn't seal. But the detail was very, very good in the treble. But again, those have a very specific kind of timbre to them. The Stax headphones, we call it ethereal in the community, but they're kind of weightless sounding. A lot of them don't have much slam, if any at all, in the bass, but it depends on which one you're talking about. The 007 is probably a huge exception to that rule from what I remember when I heard it. Yeah, usually they don't have much slam. That's right. Tile liked the X2 more than the 600. Okay, so now we're going to use Tile to discredit my opinions. That's okay. That's fine. That's not a problem. Interesting thing about the X2 is I think they was trying to tune it toward the Harman response, which I can understand, but the problem with the X2 is more of the detail. So, yeah, the 009 doesn't have a lot of bass slam from what I remember from hearing it. Oh, why do I spell? Okay, I've gotten this question a lot, and I really need to specify this. You're not that late. You're only 28 minutes late, by the way. There, JJ Green. The reason why I have filter numbers in my EQ presets is because I am lazy and copy paste the preset right out of Equalizer APO. It's not because that they're necessary in any way. That really just means which slider on the piece GUI, that plugin for Equalizer APO, is set to that frequency, that peak, that filter. That's all. It doesn't mean anything else. It's a good question, though. A lot of people have been asking that because I haven't made it clear. What headphones sounded weird, but I liked it? Yeah, the H6 V2 is actually a good example of that because it's got like an upper bass dip, and the mids are kind of recessed, the upper mids. But, correcting those, a little bit of EQ, and that was it. It was great. I mean, the soundstage wasn't great. The detail was okay. But the way the treble was smooth, even though it's supposedly measured as bright, that's a weird one. I don't know why I like that headphone so much, but that's one of the exceptions where, I'm usually an FR snob, although I will at least attempt EQ on things, as you guys know. But yeah, that one was really kind of weird, but I liked it somehow. It's quite unusual. Is the LCD one better than the 4XX? Not even close. Not even close. Way better on the LCD one. I would never buy the 4XX over that thing. It's worth it. Where do I find the suggested EQ presets? Oh, they're in the description of every review. Anybody can ask questions. People are asking me if they can ask questions. Did I not title this Q&A? I hope I did. That'd be bad if I didn't. Let's see what we got here. HE6SE soundstage. No idea, although I've heard the HE6SE has nothing to do with the HE6 sound signature now. Alright, now that the chat is no longer all over the place, I'm going to go back and find some more questions, or maybe not. Maybe people just need to ask him. Oh, here's a good one. DT770 Pro versus Custom Studio. Okay, something I didn't tell anybody, except for maybe one person, was that I actually bought a used DT770 80 ohm again, because I'm probably just a masochist at this point. Because I want to try and find one that has the sound that I reviewed. And as far as I can tell, the newest ones do not sound like that anymore. The one I reviewed had way more bass than the 32 or the 250 ohm. So I bought one with an older looking chassis, not the 80s chassis, but the one before the current DT770 chassis. We're going to see if that sounds the same as, and I have no idea if it's going to, if it sounds the same as the one I reviewed. The Custom Studio was basically a DT770 80 ohm with a vent, with an adjustable port on it, as far as I can tell. So that's the difference between those. Favorite soundstage with headphones. Favorite headphones with soundstage for movies. I know they don't know 100% what people are looking for out of movie headphones. I guess they want lots of sub-bass extensions so you can hear the subwoofer channel on the recording, I guess, and then they want the soundstage. If those are the requirements for movies, then really big soundstage for movies. You know, the largest soundstage I know of is the HD800, but the problem is the treble in that is not going to be great to listen to dialogue with for a long period of time. So I wouldn't want to choose that. I would have to say one of the Odysseys, but the problem with those is that then your vocals are going to be recessed. So yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is really. A lot of people say DT770 for movies. I suppose that is possible as long as, again, the sibilance doesn't get you. Best planer for under $500. Best planer for under $1,000. How about best planer for under $2,000? I need to make what I need to actually do is make that wall of fame that everybody is asking for. That's what I actually need to do. But at the moment, I would say best planer that I've heard under 500 is still easily the LCD one. I mean, it's not even close. I wish they still made the HE500. That'd be right up there. Maybe better actually, but they don't. Under 1,000, my standard still is the LCD2 phaser. I wouldn't be surprised if I like the Ananda equally as much. We'll see what happens if I eventually get one of those. But I think that would be my pick right now that I can think of. Olive's review on the Headphone 4XX. Yep, absolutely saw that. And yeah, he has a very different opinion than me, so what? But he also modded the crap out of it to get the treble down. And then he EQ'd it on top of that. I mean, his original measurements are not wrong at all. They're pretty bright, and that's what they are. I just am not someone to mod headphones. So it's an interesting take. We need to build a wall, but we need to build a wall out of headphones. And I'll pay for it. LCD one fine for someone that's looking for something fun with a little more bass. No. The bass, if anything, is flat to slightly recessed toward the very bottom. Definitely doesn't have a bass boost, but that's okay. It can handle a big bass boost because it's a planar. No harmonic distortion, really. But yeah, if you want a headphone that is good for producing, this is ridiculously close to neutral, like one of the closest I've heard in a while, which is why my last two reviews were so positive. I was so surprised that a closed back could even come close to Harman to the degree the 371 did. And then this thing comes out and I'm like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. How in the world are people tuning things so well now? I don't know. I don't have anything to do with it though. Thank you for the £2 there, Body Fisher. HD 600 versus LCD1. Oh yeah, if you're doing electronic production, yeah, definitely LCD1, no question there. The Sennheisers, like I said in the review, get obliterated by the bass extension and quality of the LCD1. It's like not even close. Like, I would never produce electronic music on the Sennheisers because they have way too much bass roll off. And if you boost the bass on them, it will turn to mud. So you cannot do that. That's exactly why. I've been waiting for a good open back that has good bass that's not dynamic, because only very few dynamic headphones can do sub bass properly. Open back dynamic headphones. So that's where this becomes very interesting. Let's see. Have I tried the 361 yet? Yes, somebody asked me about that earlier. I am definitely going to get one, but it's at the behest of Harman because they need to send me one. I don't buy anything for this channel. I just review stuff so that people know what's good and what's bad. Well, that's not true. Sometimes I buy things, but mostly for myself at this point. Thankfully, I'm lucky that I'm at that situation. Or you guys send me things to review too. What competes with an HD 800 with EQ in terms of imaging and soundstage? Nothing. Can't think of anything that has such a large stage. It's also a bit diffuse. Like, I can see why some people don't like the HD 100 soundstage. Oh yeah, and thank you for the super chat, by the way. And it's not really a case of portable amps powering them. It's about if you think they sound, if you like the way they sound through your amp, not necessarily power. If I remember right, they're actually easier to drive than the HD650 last time I checked that, despite the impedance. But anyway, yeah, I don't think anything competes with them in soundstage. Even though the LCD2 soundstage is not as big as the HD800, of course, I think it's plenty good for an open back, and I'm satisfied with it 100%. That's why I would use it at all. I just can't deal with how much EQ is necessary to get HD800 to sound normal at all. That's why. The LCD1 pad's removable. Supposedly they're clip-on. Here we go. New headline. Metal 571 breaks LCD1 on stream. Oh, there you go. I don't know why I didn't try pulling harder. There you go. These are the phasers actually right here. These are shaped magnets. So I think that's magnets. And drivers underneath there. So, yes, they're clip-on, believe it or not. I can't believe I thought they were glued, because I just kind of assumed they were. I guess that's how the other Odysseys are. But yep, they're removable, as you can see. I have, oh, you're asking max settings. Let's see. I like planers because I want to EQ them like a Skull Candy Crusher. Well, if that's your goal, planers are a good option because they have incredible potential in bass most of the time. Even though most of the time they don't have a bass boost, you can add a ridiculous one. I have played around just for fun adding 10 decibels, 12 decibels of bass shelf to my LCD2, and it's just like, okay, we'll do it. They don't care at all. So yeah, it's pretty funny and impressive. KPH30i, I think I talked about that already. That's very similar to a Porta Pro actually in sound signature, although it doesn't fit quite as well for me. Puts kind of some pressure on my ear that I don't like compared to the Porta Pro, which has a more like a less stiff hinge on it. It's really the only reason why I don't use it very much. But I'm sure it'll be fine, especially if you have like Yaxi pads on it, which are much thicker and more comfortable. People are asking me really simple questions now. How's it going? I am fine. It's a 07 brother from the Reddit. What's the best IEM I've heard so far? And I just tried this at Bloom Audio the other day. Actually, I think it was Friday or something. The Andromeda was pretty good, I have to say. It was pretty decent. I do hear some of that timbre and the treble is a little bit hazy, but it definitely needs EQ too. That does not sound neutral. That IEM is weird. It's got quite a bit of lower mids boost, and then there's a little hole at 1K, and then in the upper mids as you approach them, they're pretty recessed. They need at least 2 or 3 decibels. But yeah, other than that, pretty good. But yeah, they need quite a bit of EQ. And then the next step above that, the Noble Con was very impressive. I think detail-wise, of course, it's like $2,400 though. So anyway, those are the best ones I've heard so far. Max forced me to listen to the IER Z1R at Can Jam, forcefully, like he shoved my ear into the IEM. No, that's not true. But they were interesting. They had really good detail as well. Not a neutral headphone at all. Definitely very bassy, and V-shaped with some nice amount of mid treble. But it was pretty decent, to admit, and also expensive. So, yeah. I don't know how value functions in IEM world. That's why I don't review them very much. But there's some mini reviews if people are really looking for my thoughts on IEMs. Oh, have I got the LCD i3 into review yet? No, but it's on my list. Although I think the next thing I want to do with Audizies after the LCD one is I'm probably going to play with. I'm going to do an LCD GX versus LCDX versus MX4, because if you guys know, those all three are related. I believe in diaphragm at least, but different magnet structures. And yeah, I totally expect for the other two to lose against the LCDX, but we'll see what happens. Or maybe they'll send me the three and I'll be like, yeah, no, these are bad, and just not even bother, but we'll see what happens. They already know the stakes of sending me things. All companies do. Blah, blah, blah. I got the K702. They sound a lot lower in volume than the 271. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not surprising. Impedance is not as important as sensitivity sometimes. So despite the 271s being a 55 ohm driver, 271 Mark III, I don't even know what that is. Are you talking about a K550 Mark III? That would be really different in volume. But yeah, the higher end open backs tend to be harder to drive. And if you're playing with mid-fi open backs, you probably should at least have like a JDS Atom and a Grace S DAC or something like that. Yeah, glued on pads for the LCD4 is a damn shame for $4,000. You know, I totally agree. I don't really understand why they have to glue the pads on the higher end LCDs. It's just probably some legacy. It's just a legacy design that they've always had, most likely. We all know the M50. We all know the ATH M50 is the real end game here. And you know what? The original M50, last time I heard one, that was actually one of the first headphones I ever heard that got me into this hobby, which I think a lot of people it was, at least 5 years ago. It sounded much more detailed than the M50X did, from what I remember, the original. So I don't know what happened. Is the LCD2 a waste of money for iPhone usage? Yeah, I'm not sure I would try to power the LCD2 off an iPhone. It'll run, because it's actually not that hard to drive. It's only a 70 ohm headphone, and the sensitivity isn't that low. But if you're trying to bring a headphone anywhere, which I assume you're probably going to try to do, the answer is pretty obvious. The LCD1 at 13.5 ohms and 99 dB per milliwatt, I mean, yeah, it's really, really sensitive. This is a good question. Any interest in reviewing famous classic headphones like the MDR CD900 ST? I've wanted to hear that for a long time. I really don't know if I would actually do that review, because there's just so much other stuff I need to do ahead of all the vintage stuff that's just like a whole nother category. So it depends. I definitely have interest, yes, if that's the question, which it is, but I'm not sure if I'm going to actually do that anytime soon. Still have so much I got to catch up on. It's very difficult. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see the spammer. That's funny. Well, at least they stopped. I was way behind. Yeah, but I'm going to nuke those messages anyway, because that's stupid. Bye-bye. Don't do that. What's more resolving, EL8 or LCD1? Yeah, definitely the LCD1. That's not really close, especially if you're talking about the EL8 closed. DT1990 with Elite velour pads. I'm going to stop you right there. Don't use Viconi pads. Just don't do it, ever. That's all I have to say about Viconi pads at all. Just don't do it. Have I tried the NDH20? It is on its way to me. Actually, it was supposed to be here already, but I wasn't around when it was delivered, as usual, because I hate USPS. So I'm having it held at my local post office, so I'll probably get my hands on that to play with the next couple days. All right, I'm going to go back to the bottom here, because there's so many questions that I'm like so far behind on. Yeah, this is something I want to answer eventually too. Have I noticed any difference between the S DAC and the D50? Haven't A/B'd them yet. Honestly, the D50's just been sitting here. I haven't done anything with it since I got the S DACs because people told me the S DAC is a better DAC, so I switched to the DAC. That's it. I don't know. I didn't really notice a huge difference. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, no, I don't have the K361 yet. A lot of people are asking me that. And the reason why is because it's up to AKG to send that to me at this point. Have I tried LCD1 and a tube amp? Don't do that. Don't do that. Especially not a dark voice. Don't do that either. The high output impedance in the dark voice is a horrible idea to put into anything except for high impedance headphones. Best cans for EDM. Some of my favorites still are the high-end Odysseys, really. If you're looking for something that's actually affordable, yeah, the old school DT770 80 ohm that I heard, anyway. I bought used, so I have no idea how old it was, but that one was awesome for EDM, definitely. But as far as affordable, I mean, there's so many good headphones for electronic music, but I tend to go toward planers now. For the open back stuff, of course, because of the bass. But if you're in an office, I do use the Atticus all the time for every genre, really. Although I do EQ it a bit, so I'll talk about that when I get to that review. How do I use just the DAC portion of an amp connected to another amp? I mean, the amp has to have a DAC out if it's a DAC amp. Otherwise, you can't do that. If it has a line out, then yeah, you can definitely take the DAC part of the DAC amp and route it to a different amp. What's a step up above the Sundara? I don't know because I don't really like the Sundara that much, but the Ananda is probably a straight upgrade that's got a better frequency response at the same time, if I had to guess. Because I haven't heard it at home yet, so I can't tell you 100% for sure there. Skull Candy versus Odyssey. I like that. That's a good one. Is the 2K dip on the LCD one as bad as it looks? No, and that's why I told people in the review, do not trust the mini DSP iris measurements. Please don't take them as perfect. And I actually posted Odyssey's raw gross Keymar graph so that you could see what it really measures like. And in there, I don't think there's a huge 2K dip. There is a bit of a 2K dip because it doesn't rise as smoothly as it should at that point. But I think on my mini DSP ears graph, it was like 6 dB down there, and that's not true at all. And I can tell you that by listening to it. I don't even need measurements for that one. Even if I got free Tacony pads, no, I don't. Manufacturers are not allowed to send me things for free. What happens is they may send me things, and then I'll send them back. But if I liked them and they offer for me to keep them after the review, then I will keep them. I like the 371 actually. But I was going to send everything back, as I always do to any company who sends me anything. I tell them right up front, nothing is guaranteed to be positive or negative review. I may not review all the things you send me. I have these like terms and conditions. I actually post them over at Patreon, so I'm still refining them. But the most important thing is I don't make any money off of affiliate links. That's probably the most important thing by far, because if you start making money off affiliate links, you're inherently biased to push the product, and you want to sell it and sell it and sell it because you make a profit off of that. So that's wrong, and I don't do that. If you want an accurate review, then you don't want to do that. Have I tried a topping D10? No, I haven't. I think Max Settings actually has one, but I think he only uses it as a optical transport, actually, which makes sense because he's got way better DACs than that out there anyway. I don't have the Monoprice M570 yet, no, but I am getting one from Monoprice. So that will be really interesting to compare against the LCD1. That's what's going to happen after I do the LCD2 closed back versus Atticus. The LCD2 closed got pushed because the LCD1 got sent to me and I didn't expect it. So I spent about a week with those, and then I did the review really quickly because I feel like people need to know about the LCD1. It's a pretty significant headphone. It's not perfect, but it's pretty significant against the Sennheisers. Oh yeah, that's true. The HD380 is crazy for bass music. It has a huge amount of sub bass, huge amount. It's not a very accurate sounding headphone at all, and it's really grainy. So I only used it as a monitor. You can see mine's still up there right in the middle here. The Sennheiser Row at the top. HD 600. So the 712 was not that wide. I think it was pretty wide. HD 600 has issues with imaging. Like, it doesn't have an in-between image. It only has wide in the center. And that's about it. Oh, thank you for the super chat. You do awesome reviews like Max Settings. Love my LCD2 classics. Keep up the great work. I'm glad you enjoyed them. They are pretty good. I got the 2 phaser after that, and they were just a smidge better, so that's why I have those. But the LCD2 classics, when you can find them for like under $600 used, are such a good choice, honestly. What else we got here? Yeah, the Mr. Speakers headphones are kind of meh. I totally agree with that. The biggest problem with them is they don't have dynamics. Like, really don't have dynamics. There's some serious issues with some of them, to the point where, like, everything I listen to, there's no like range of loud and soft, which is basically what dynamics is. But also, bass kicks are just like, they're just soft. They don't even have like a leading edge transient to them. A lot of Mr. Speakers sound like that, and it's pretty bizarre and off-putting, actually. I'm surprised more reviewers don't say that, because I've never been able to unhear that after people have told me, hey, make sure you listen to the dynamics of that headphone. And I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. Thank you for the super chat again. Tonk here. What easy to drive over-ear closed backs have a similar sound signature to the KPH30i? Ooh, that's a good question. Wow. So you want a warmer closed back that's over. You know what? I happen to say the K371 might fit that pretty well. It's not a very bright headphone at all. It's not really the same exact sound signature, but it's on the warmer side, quite a bit warmer, in my opinion. So there's an option. Let's see what else we got here. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't like the Coney pads, straight up. Because, well, first of all, the last one I heard was on the Drop 177X, and they had the leatherette. Was it the leather? I think it was pleather. I don't remember if it was real leather or not, but anyway, as soon as I put them on that headphone, there was already an imbalance from the factory. So that's not a good thing. But the main problem with the Deconi problem, yes, it is a Deconi problem, is people buy them all the time to try to get more comfort out of the headphones, but they're not warned about the huge frequency response change that tends to happen with them. And even if the frequency response change is not actually that severe, they also can affect detail and soundstage, and people just totally dismiss this as like not even there. That's the problem. Like, you can try them, but I generally don't recommend anything other than OEM pads for headphones at all, in any case, unless you've got alt pads available from the original manufacturer. Like, CMF offers a number of different ones, and he recommends certain pads that he makes for his headphones. That's fine, but these third-party pads in general are just not a good idea. Let's see. K712s are decent for gaming if you buy them used. Yeah, I would say they're pretty good gaming headphone, actually, because they're on the brighter side and they have a big soundstage with better imaging than like the 702 and the 701 from what I remember. So that's a pretty interesting one. Yeah, honestly, I don't think there is anything wider than that in the price range. I think David's right about that. The HD800 and the 712 are competing there, actually. They're pretty wide. Oh, I haven't heard that one yet. Flex is saying the RAL. Is it even, how in the world are you supposed to say RAL or RAL? Or I don't even know. But anyway, the SR1A, I haven't heard yet, is supposed to be apparently pretty wide. 371's for DJing. You know, actually, you could do that. I mean, that's kind of the point where these cups individually are able to bend up and down. So you can use them one-eared pretty easily. And but I would be hesitant about the build quality, though. That's the only thing. If sound quality is more important than build quality and you want to DJ, you can, because there's 3 cables and they give you some coiled cables too, which are ideal for DJing as far as I know. So yeah, it's possible. Here's a good one. How much did Odyssey pay me for that LCD1 review? Here, let me give you a clue. 0. Nothing. I don't take money from anybody. No manufacturers, nothing. I never do that. I don't have any affiliate links. I don't get sent things for free in expectation of a good review. I don't say anything positive or negative except for exactly what I believe. Simple. Yeah, I'm going to return them, and I do have to return them, actually. The reason why they're around is because I have to compare them to the M570, and then I'm going to return them. Then I'll decide if I want to buy them for myself. I don't know yet. It's an interesting alternative because my 660S I don't really need, because this kind of fills that niche very, very well, because these are even more efficient than the 660, and I like them better than the 660. But my 650 is going to stick around, though. But yeah, I don't get paid anything. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Exposure is not free. Well, what's the point of the channel then, though? That's the thing, and people are like, oh yeah, this guy's biased, he's way too positive. But if I give something negative review, you get a whole bunch of people saying like, oh yeah, this guy's just trying to smear campaign this company. I can't win, guys. What am I supposed to do? But realistically, though, the LCD1, the reason why I was so positive about it is I want to get the word out about it. I want other people to hear it, and then you guys can tell me if I'm right or if I'm crazy. It's kind of the fun behind this whole thing anyway, is everyone's differing opinions. It's so interesting to see. Let's see. Oh, I didn't get exclusive coverage either, by the way. Actually, there are a bunch of mastering engineers. I'll name one. Bob Katz had this headphone ahead of time as well. And he was amazed with it as well. So if you like what he wrote on Interfidelity quite a bit about, again, the LCD4, he also has a 007, I remember from his reviews there. He really loved this. He thought this was amazing. And I'm not surprised because its frequency response is very good. So if you need to mix on the go, it's an option. And that's why I said so. Favorite driver tech? None. If you can make a good headphone, I don't care what the driver tech is. That's actually more of my philosophy behind that. K240 is good for gaming. Gaming is also a tough one. Just having this conversation with some of my friends that gaming, you have to qualify what kind of gaming. Like anything will really sound okay with gaming. But if you're playing competitive gaming where you need a soundstage, you have to specify that. Otherwise, I'm just going to say any headphone will really just work for gaming fine. So it totally depends. 660S or 1990? Yeah, no, I don't like the 1990. In fact, I need to redo the 1990 review because it's such a meh headphone. And I thought I made it clear in the review that it was kind of, it's okay. But then everyone's like, ooh, that means good. And they went out and bought it. And I'm just like, I didn't get my point across. So I need to do that again. And more importantly, I need a DT880 at the same time as the 1990 to redo that. That's the only way I'm going to re-release that review, because otherwise I have no idea, honestly. Oh, yeah. The Birdfi has some of those headphones. I almost forgot. Yeah, that'd be great if I could listen to those back-to-back again, because it'd be really interesting to see if I change my mind. Yeah, it's definitely not a $599 headphone, though. 1990. Oh, my God. No one should be paying $600 for that thing. That, I think I said, and I still agree with, however. Yeah, it's not a headphone that should be costing $600. There are some advantages, though. Anyway, does my HD800 blow LCD2 out in terms of detail all around? No, not really. I really don't think the whole HD800 is the most detailed headphone ever meme is a real thing at all. After listening to a lot of other headphones that are more expensive than it, especially planars with really thin diaphragms, HD800 detail is good for $1,000, but it's nothing like an LCD4. It's nothing like a 007. It's very different. So those two are closer than I thought last time I listened to them. The HD800 is more detailed than the LCD2, but it's not like it's miles ahead of it. At least in my opinion. How many headphones do I actually own? Yeah. Let's see. Everything behind me. Do I own everything there? Yeah, everything behind me I own, I think. Yeah, the 650, 380, 660S up there at the top, and then the LCD2 HD800. Well, I can't even point properly. This is left and right, not this. I must be going crazy. Yeah, LCD2 HD800, and that's K553. 371 I own now. AKG let me keep it after the review. I guess they're not expensive enough for them to want me to send it back. This I'm going to send back. I don't own the LCD1. I do own the ZMF Atticus. The main headphones I use for actual music listening, which is seemingly rarer and rarer nowadays versus reviewing, would be the Atticus and the LCD2, actually. And that's another good question. Am I selling the 553 now that I have the 371? You know, I need to listen to those two back to back a couple more times before I decide to. I probably will, just because the 553 is not really made anymore as far as I know. I think they're still on the AKG site, but I thought they were getting discontinued. So I don't think there's any reason to keep around headphones that are discontinued and you can't get anymore. That would be the main reason why I would want to get rid of it, so I have a baseline that's accurate for what's currently being offered. So yeah, here's a really good question. Thank you for the super chat there. LCD2 isn't significantly better than the LCD1. I guess the former would be a bit too heavy for hours of gaming. Okay. LCD2 versus LCD1 is not really fair because of the price point comparison, which is why I didn't go into that very much in that review. But here's the upshot. Actually, the LCD, I haven't compared them directly yet, but I'm willing to bet that when I compare them directly, the LCD1's detail and the treble might actually be better than the LCD2. But the LCD2 has other advantages, like a much larger soundstage, much more impact in the bass, and slightly better extension in the bass. And those things set it apart more, even though the frequency response is not as good either. So the LCD1's a really interesting headphone because of things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say the things that you can. So here's the things about the LCD2 that are better cannot be fixed with EQ. That is why someone should pay more for it. I don't know about $600 more though. This is why I always say buy used LCD2s if you're gonna buy one. Don't buy it new. $1,000 is. It's like cars, man. You know, you lose like half the value as soon as you buy it new, right off the bat. Do I still own the K701? No, I got rid of the Q701, which I had recently. I was like 4 years old, and the K701 I had before that I sold a while ago. And the K240, I don't have this K240. Oh, actually, that's false. I do have the K240. I sold the K240 Studio, and then I bought a K240 Mark II, Austrian one, because I saw it on eBay, and I was like, I'm never going to find this again, so I grabbed one. But I also have a K240 Sextet late production. So really, someone said the LCD2 is discontinued and replaced by the LCD2 Classic. No. I have not heard that from Odyssey at all. I talked to those guys at Odyssey quite a bit. They've never mentioned that. I really hope not, because that would be going backwards. Who said that at the Audio Fest? Did I miss something? Anyway, is LCD2's better soundstage a result of frequency response or driver potential? I think it's actually, when I asked them about it, they said it's because the proximity of the driver to the ear is a lot closer to the LCD1. And because you'll notice that, and I'm starting to notice this, the trend for headphones that have a really good soundstage, whether they're closed or open, the drivers are further away from your head. I mean, if you look at the Atticus, look at how big the thing is. Like, there's so much room in this cup behind the driver, and this volume is big, and actually has, in my experience, subjectively, tended to mean a larger soundstage. And if you look at things like the K1000, obviously that's literally like speakers coming off of your ear. So apparently that is what causes a big difference in the soundstage between the two, if you're curious about that. Yeah, the LCD2 phaser should not be discontinued. That's really ridiculously weird. Kind of EQ do I use? I am using software. I wish I had a 33 band hardware equalizer. That'd be really fun to play with. I have equalizer APO, which goes through Windows. That's all. Just makes it simple to save presets, and it's free, most importantly. So anybody can try it. Let's see. Do I need an amp for the 58X? No, not really. You don't need something crazy. That's not a very hard headphone to drive. I would rather get a 6XX and an amp, though, together. Um, by that logic, an LCD won't get a better soundstage with a pad swap. Again, I would not swap pads at all because that could screw up the FR, even if the soundstage is better. So you'd probably mess up. Yeah, they'd probably get brighter. They'd probably sound way different if you did that. Moving the ear away from the driver is one of the number one things not to do if you like the way something sounds and frequency response wise. That's why the M40X gets so wrecked when you try to friggin' like change the pads out for HM5 pads, which is probably the number one mistake people make with the Audio Technicas. That's not a good idea. Not that they sounded great before the pad swap either anyway, but that's another question in itself. Yeah, I can see why people say Odyssey sound more muffled than Beats EP. The thing is, everything in the hobby is relative. This is what you guys got to understand. And that's why a lot of people are like, Stax is the only headphone. Everything else is veiled in garbage. It's because a lot of the Stax stuff is brighter and the Sennheiser HD650 is warmer. But if someone likes the HD650 and they switch to a DT990, holy hell, that's way too much pain. So it depends on how you like your music to sound. So my job is really to tell you, hey, this headphone's got good technicalities, detail, soundstage, and that kind of thing. And then I'll describe the FR relative to what I perceive as neutral for my music. And if you like things slightly brighter than I do, then when I say something is slightly brighter, you'll probably enjoy it. It's the best I can do, really. I did see Tyle's last headphone review in the desert with his RV buddies. I think, what is he? I guess it is technically an RV, just a livable RV at this point is what he built. It's pretty cool. Yeah, he was like, the last thing I want to do is another headphone review, but I'll do one. It's too funny. I had a coworker tell me that Bose makes the best headphones. See, this is what I mean. You gotta separate like this whole community that we have here with everybody else. It's such a different world. I mean, once you get into the hobby, then other people look weird, but in reality, you're probably the weird one out among most people when it comes to audio. That's just the way it is. So I'm not surprised by that at all. Timbre more or less important than detail. That's up to you, really. Some people will say, okay, I will not use EQ. I will only listen to frequency responses that are diffuse field, and I care about instrument timbre and realism over detail 200%. And that exists. That's fine. That's not me, but that's fine. So, personally, no. I'm not as much on the timbre side of things as I am on the tone side of things, the frequency response side of things, and detail and stage. I do consider dynamics also only if they're really obnoxiously bad. I'm not as sensitive to dynamics as max settings would be. Same thing with DACs and amps. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how to say your name. Sorry. I'm an American. We only know English here. We don't know like 6 languages like other countries do, where people are smarter. Thoughts on the new 177X? Yeah, I think I talked about. Did I talked about that in the last stream, or did I not get a chance? Maybe I didn't get a chance. But the 177X I actually had for a short period, and then decided not to review it because it was bad. And mainly that's because the DT1770, if you ever watched that review, was already not good. Mainly because detail was really quite bad. The whole thing just sounds like it's hazed over, and it was just not impressive at all. I actually had a DT770 right alongside it at the time I reviewed this 1770, and it was just so much better detail-wise. It was almost hilarious. Oh, there you go, C++ fans. That's true. So, yeah, and then on top of that, so what they did with the 177X is they took the 1770, and then they made it a 32-ohm headphone, which increases the moving mass even more, which makes the detail even worse. And then on top of that, they front damped it. They actually put, like, for example, they put extra foam in front of the driver here, which makes the detail even worse, even though it also warms up the treble a bit. So I can see what they tried to do with it, but they didn't start with the right headphone. I would never have retuned a 1770. It's not a good idea. So that's what the 177X is. But I will say it's one of the more livable frequency responses from a biodynamic. I was surprised how much less sibilance it had than some of the other Tesla 2.0 stuff. But yeah, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Do I think that DMS thinks that tonality is more important? Well, I don't like the SHP 9500 either. The reason why my SHP 9500 review was like, yeah, this is okay, is because it was like $50 at the time. And now they're trying to sell it for $80 when that's kind of insane. That I don't understand. Yeah, everyone is saying C++ as a language that they know. That's good, because so do I. That's one of the most interesting programming languages. I mean, it just keeps evolving. It's crazy. If you guys haven't seen what modern C++ looks like, C++ 20, you should watch Strewstrip talk about it. It's absolutely wild. The level of abstraction they've gone to is way beyond what I will probably ever use at my job, but it's really interesting. Do I have a portable daily driver? No, not really. I'm at home, and then I'm at the office, and then I'm at home. And then on the weekends, I'm out somewhere, and I'm talking with friends. I'm not walking around a city or whatever. I guess I would definitely need a portable if I lived in a city and was walking to work and back and to the shops or whatever. But no, I don't really have a portable setup. So that's why I have what I have here. Let's see. Oh, really? TMS was trading his DT80 for the 650. Honestly surprised by that, because he seemed to really like the DT80 Pro last time I saw. Oh, this mic is an XLR mic. Here, I'll show you. This is the connector down here. Sorry about that if anybody has a subwoofer. It's an XLR microphone. It takes phantom power. So this is a Rode NT1. It's running into a Behringer UMC 404 HD. Yeah, sorry about that, people with subwoofers. Yeah, modern C++ looks nothing. Like the whole thing with the auto data type throws me for a loop and a half. Like, I get it if you're trying to do a template of a instead of typing, like when you're for looping over an array that's an STL array that has like a templated type, it's such a pain to write all that code out. So I can see where auto works there, but like, I guess there's some people using auto on like every variable, and that's really weird to me because it's supposed to be a strongly typed language. So I don't see the point of the auto keyword, but whatever floats your boat, man. At the end of the day, marketing just wants the code to work. Do I listen to stereo speakers? I actually have in the room behind me, I have a home theater, which is pretty interesting because it's got a receiver, and most modern receivers have this. I have a Denon that has a calibration mic in the box, and it actually calibrates your speakers by running frequency sweeps on each one of them. So I guess I have some kind of idea of what neutral is supposed to be for speakers. I don't know. But I've got ELAC B6s in there, and an ELAC C5 in the center, and I've got the meme speakers, the Mica MB42Xs as the rears, because they don't matter that much. And the subwoofer's a BIC F12, so basically it's a Zeos home theater. So yeah, I can, but I do listen to music on it sometimes. Most of the time it's TVs and movies though. Soundstage of the LCD1 bigger than the 6XX, and if so, by how much? No, I don't think it's really bigger. It just has better imaging. It's a pretty intimate sounding soundstage on the LCD1. It's one of the flaws that it has. Some people don't even care about soundstage, honestly. Depends on who you are. The LCD1 is an over-ear headphone. Yeah, here. You know what? Everyone asked me to wear it, and I never did, so... So here, it makes me look a lot better than the 371. I don't know. Oh yeah, sorry for exposing my ears because I'm always wearing an actual headphone. But that's important because I need to be able to hear what the mic is hearing. But anyway, that's what it looks like. It's an actual over-ear. It's not an on-ear headphone. This is... This is interesting. I might be the only HD800 fanboy left, says somebody. I highly doubt it, honestly. There have been so many headphones that have come out since that headphone, but it's such a legendary headphone that I don't see any problems liking it. It's got a lot of detail and still has, like, for me, the reference soundstage that you can still buy. So it does a lot of things right. I just don't like the frequency response. Natural one, anyway. 32.10 channel system. Oh my god, that's funny. Galaxy Buds. Yeah. I do want to hear the Galaxy Buds. Sean Olive mentioned to me on Twitter that the Radsound HE100 IEMs are actually tuned to Harman as well. I think he said he met with one of the engineers. So that's very interesting. Definitely want to hear those to see what that sounds like. I normally do count the clicks when I'm putting on a headphone. I forgot how many I was using on the LCD1 in that case. Also, these really are portable, so they fold up like that. Pretty cool. It's weird because it's an open back, but hey, it's pretty interesting because you can actually kind of travel with that as opposed to like an LCDX. Yeah, the 371. I don't know. It's something about the way the headband is shaped makes it look kind of weird. Maybe it's because I'm used to what I look like with the 380s or the 550 on camera. So I'm just not used to it yet. Yeah, the headband is wide. I noticed that. I guess a lot of the pressure gets distributed on this pad in particular. I am not one to get bothered by headband pads, though. So I'm not a good reviewer in terms of comfort of the headband. Only the pads themselves. I have not heard Tool's new album still, even though you guys have been telling me to listen to that every single stream. Yeah, I do have ears, contrary to popular belief. HD100 detail is very much matched and exceeded by many headphones now. I don't agree with it being unmatched by anything. Because one of the easiest ways to tell that is because if you try playing around with EQ on the HD800, you'll start to hear that it still has some desire to hold its signature. It's not as much as many headphones, but it's not as little grain as some of the really expensive stuff. But you have to pay way more to get beyond that. Am I an OLED guy or a projector guy? I want to be an OLED guy, but I didn't. I said not to spend an excessive amount of money on my home theater. So I actually only have an LCD. I know. I just lost all credibility among saying that I have a home theater. Thank you. But I would like to get one of those LG OLEDs as my next TV eventually. Right now I just have a Vizio M series actually, which is, I just wanted to have Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos support, not to have like perfect quality of that, which so far has worked out well. Let's see. Budget headphone for movies. If you can find one, the DT770 80 ohm, the type that sounds like I reviewed, is actually really fun for that. Or if you don't mind the trouble on the new ones. Should I buy an LCD2 Classic if I already have an LCDX? I did a review comparing them, so you might want to watch that. Honestly, in my opinion, probably not. Especially if you don't mind the amount of trouble the LCDX has, because the 2C is quite a bit darker than that. Okay, so someone's asking about the equalizer APO setting. That's literally pasted out of the config file. Filter 2 : on PK FC means it's filter number 2 in equalizer APO, and on means it's not disabled, and PK means it's a peak filter, and FC is the prefix for the frequency. Center frequency, I think, is what that means. So that's what that actually means. But it's a config file line, so it's not really meant to be read by humans. It's parsed by the program. Speaker for the home theater. Yeah, I was just talking about the speakers for the home theater. It's ELAC B6 is the fronts, ELAC C5 in the middle. The middle speaker, no, the center speaker. The rears are MB42Xs, those are the micas, and the sub is a Bic F12. And my receiver is a Denon S730H. Yeah. You know, I hate Facebook Marketplace in terms of like people who are trustworthy. I would rather buy something off of Craigslist instead of buying it off Facebook Marketplace. If anything, I'd probably list my old TV on Craigslist or something and buy a new OLED, because I don't want to be a generation behind. Because I already know how updates work for TVs now. Oh man, I'm sure that mine is not going to be updated after 3 years, and with the kind of security concerns we have nowadays on software updates, I am not even sure if I'm going to keep it beyond 3 years. It's a 2017 model, so we'll see. JBL Studio 580s. I want LSR 305s though eventually, just so I can see what that sounds like at home, even though I have terrible rooms that are not treated. Still want to see what that would sound like. Porta Pro and Atticus share a similar sound signature. No, the Atticus is a lot brighter actually. It's got a mid treble peak, quite a bit, and the Porta Pro is forward around 2K. Atticus is not at all. Bass wise though, I can see where that's coming from. Bass wise, yeah, and of course, obviously the soundstage is way better on the Atticus. Yeah, this is the real question, isn't it? What if I EQ the treble down the 4XX? Is it good then for $150 to $200? I think that's kind of what I said. If you EQ the treble a lot, I think it's okay for $170. The bigger problem with the 4XX is that it falls apart. Like the pads disintegrate, and it only takes like a month. It's really bad, and I didn't know how bad it was until I knew a couple people who bought one, and like every single one of them, within a month or two, the pads just disintegrate. They just fell apart. It's really bad. It's really not good. So I don't know what to do about that. So that's something you probably should know, and I probably should pin a comment on there saying like, hey, the reliability of this headphone isn't so good. So I don't think the other Hyphomens have those kind of issues to that degree. Sometimes they have drivers that die, not as often as Odysseys perhaps, but I hope that they fixed that by now. I actually don't know. Max Settings and Flux probably have a better idea than I do. 4XX with the appropriate ZMF pads. I think haven't some people put like ZMF or iPads on the 4XX? Oh boy. The best headphone connector. I like this question. Wow. This is going to generate a lot of controversy in the comments here. I like mini XLRs, but the Mr. Speakers connector though, thank you for reminding me, is really, anything but MMCX, definitely. I really like the Mr. Speakers connector. I think that is a standard connector. They've just branded it to DUM, distinctly unmagical or whatever. Is that what it's called? The Hyros? I don't know. I don't remember what it's called. It has some kind of name, but the Mr. Speakers connector is good. I don't think OLEDs have motion blur, do they? I think they just have burn-in problems. Best connector is the one that's permanently attached. Not looking for open headphones that leak. Yeah, I got a lot of questions about that, which I'm very perplexed by, because I thought I clearly said the LCD1 was an open headphone in the review, and yet like at least 10% of the comments were like, "Can I use this at work? Does it leak?" Like, really? It's an open headphone. You're gonna annoy everybody. So if you absolutely have to have isolation, then yeah, you could buy the Mobius. But the Mobius is its own thing. I think it has a really good frequency response, but basically no sound stage. It's not as bad as M50X, but it's not a great sound stage. And also it forces you to use the built-in amp, which has a little bit of low-level hiss all the time on it, so that may or may not bother you. So the Mobius is a really interesting headphone, but there are some certain aspects about it that might be not so great. But honestly, for the office, I could see the Mobius being pretty good, and it works in Bluetooth with LDAC at 96K 32-bit, which is kind of impressive. Does a lot of things, but I think, yeah, exactly what you just said. LCD1C is what everyone really wants, a passive Mobius with a good soundstage. So we'll see what happens there. I don't remember if the headband on the Mobius and LCD1 are identical, honestly. But you should be able to compare them with pictures pretty easily. I don't have one anymore because, it never belonged to me. Thought about buying one, though, because it's just convenient. So convenient. It just does so many things. The 371. I used the 550 and the 553 as my office headphone for a long time, and when the 371 came out, that would be my automatic recommendation. No question about that. 371 is it's on the darker side. Yeah, it's a Harman headphone. So, but other than its lean towards being dark, is quite an accurate sounding headphone, and then the sub bass boost at the very, very bottom. But those are really minor gripes considering it's a $150 closed back. I've never heard a frequency response like remotely like this. I think the DT250 might be the only other headphone that's perhaps as accurate. Maybe more so. Thoughts on the Ether CX. It's funny. I've been talking to Olive about that. And he's like, I can't decide whether I'm going to review this or I should just send it back because it's so bad. So we'll see what happens with Ether CX. I probably should ask Drop for one, but chances are it's not even going to be worth reviewing. And I'll probably just complain about it in here. Yeah, I don't know what in the world they did. It's just, I'd rather lift up the companies that are making, not even the companies, the products from the companies. Every company has good and bad products, but I'd rather lift up and give good reviews to the products that are good rather than just crap on everything. That's what this is for. I still don't know why he likes a 361 better, but we'll see what happens with that. Oh boy, yeah, there's a good example of the Cascade. Oh, that's so bad. Well, I do mention the M40s and the M50s. I mean, I measured and I reviewed both of them. That's one of the exceptions. Like if something is really expensive and bad, it doesn't seem like there's that many people who are gonna buy it. But if we get like 3 or 4 reviews from people like DMS and Z and Josh that are all like, "Whoa, this is incredible! Nothing is as good as this," and then I review it and I'm like, "Yeah, this is bad. That's worth releasing." That's when I'll do it. That's what happened with like the M1060, pretty much. Grados are Mr. Speakers for Endgame. Oh my god, you used the super chat for that question. That's really funny. I would take an Ether 2 every time over like a PS1000E or something. That's all I can really say about that, Let's see, LX or T1.2. I just can't listen to the T1. It's way too bright, and the second revision did not fix that, by the way. I heard it at Can Jam. It's the same. Not a fan of T1. LX is pretty decent if you get a good one. The 2 I heard, and I left the reviews up so that you could see that. The 2 I heard, the first one was grainier than the second one, and I don't know why. That's more annoying than the frequency response being a little bit off. So that was pretty strange. I think the 361, the reason why Olive likes it, judging by his measurements, I have no idea until I actually try it, but it doesn't have that sub-bass hump to it. And so I think it's a little bit brighter. I don't know. But yeah, again, frequency response is also not everything at all. In fact, it's like, geez, frequency response maybe only 25% of what I'm reviewing. Because the whole point of any of these audio reviews is to tell you what it actually sounds like when you put it on your head, which cannot be conveyed by a graph. Sorry. Same thing with DACs and amps, by the way. CMF is like a quality steak, while Mr. Speakers is tofu. I like that. That's hilarious. The thing about ZMFs is, and I have to be honest, the detail they put out is not that impressive for the price point at all. But Zach's ability to tune those headphones really, really well for certain sound signatures that people really like is excellent. And that's what sets them apart. That and the workmanship and the lifetime warranty and obviously his ability to help people over email. I can't imagine how swamped he is, but he really takes a personal approach to what people are looking for. So if you factor all that in, and you still, again, then you might be able to get over the price. But yeah, they're still really expensive. Yeah, I still don't know if I'm going to do IEMs. Someone asked me, I EQ'd the Campfire Andromeda. Am I going to consider reviewing them? Probably not. Not yet, anyway. If I'm going to do any IEMs, the first one I'll probably do the i3 and the i4, because those are really odd and not very IEM-like IEMs, so maybe I'll do those. And I have a feeling that the Cypher EQ is not going to be enough. So I'm going to have to give you an EQ on top of the Cypher EQ, or I'm going to have to give you an EQ that's the Cypher EQ plus my idea of what they should sound like, something like that. And that's only if their soundstage and detail is worth paying for, which honestly, from the short demo with the i3, it sounded like it was technically good enough, just not tuned that well. Like the mids were too recessed again. So we'll see what happens with those. That might be the only IEMs I'll do for now. Somebody bought an SR80E and thinks they committed a crime. You know, if you want to know if you like Grado or not, just buy an SR60 or an SR80E and then you'll know. I can't tell you what to like and what not to like. I can only tell you what I like and what I don't like and why in detail. And that's it. That's all I can do. Yeah, actually, laid back comfort headphone with big soundstage. That's actually right. The LCD2 closed running EQ. A little preview of the LCD2 closed is don't use it without EQ, period. Do not buy that without having EQ as an option, because it sounds weird. And Resolve is totally right about that. I recently looked at his review again just to remember what he said, and yeah, you need to use it with EQ. But it's also really heavy. I think I did the last live stream with the LCD2 closed, and I could barely go 2.5 hours with it. I don't know, something about that headphone, the way the weight is distributed, annoys my neck, and the other Odysseys don't. So it's kind of weird. Yeah, I know I've reviewed the LCD i4 and he hated it. But what's funny was I could clearly hear in his demo that the detail was excellent. So clearly he just totally ignored the detail because the frequency response with the reveal EQ was bad. At least for him. So I think I'll get an interesting perspective on that. We'll see. Still, that's a really expensive headphone for having not a very good FR. But you can say the same thing about the LCD4, which is my favorite headphone ever. So I think I go by potential of headphones without having to mod them physically. I guess that's what this channel is now. Whatever. I know I'm right about the LCD ones, at least in my ear. I wouldn't lie to you guys. Trust me. But whether you guys will like it, I have no idea. It'd be really interesting when everybody else comes out with a review of me and like, oh, metal's wrong, and then I guess I'm going to have to close down my channel. Yeah, someone asked me about this earlier, LCD1 versus the 2C or the LCD2 phaser or whatever. The difference between those headphones is mainly the soundstage and the bass quality and extension to a lesser degree. And those are all things you can't fix with EQ, which is why people would pay more for the LCD2. But the frequency response is not as accurate in the LCD2 as the LCD1. Everybody's asking about the LCD1 for gaming. I don't think it makes any sense. Honestly, if your gaming requires a soundstage, LCD1 is not the best idea. In fact, I would just get a 598. I would just get a 598 or like a K612 or something like that. If soundstage is the most important. Or the 599, yeah. Best neutral headphone under $1,000. Oh, God. Neutral by my definition under $1,000? Well, that's a good question. See, I haven't heard the Ananda yet, but it sounded very, very good to me. Other than that, the main things that come to mind actually are this still. So good. If you like diffuse field neutral, the 612 is probably, yeah, that's right. It's severely underhyped apparently. I haven't heard the 612 at home yet, but I know that if you like diffuse field headphones, you're probably going to like the 612 a lot. Everyone is asking for Sundara versus the LCD1. I think both Max Settings and I agree that the Sundara is very underwhelming for the price. I think I would rather listen to the LCD1 personally, especially if EQ is not an option. Yeah, the Ananda might not have very good dynamics, but somebody asked about neutral, not about dynamics. You can't win. Every headphone's got pluses and minuses. You just have to decide. Messe Empyrean for gaming. You know, honestly, I would recommend against the Messe Empyrean for gaming. That might be too dark of a headphone to pick up on competitive footsteps and stuff like that, you know. Depends on what you're playing, obviously. Yeah, I know a lot of people want to send me stuff and they're overseas. Sorry, right now I'm only taking review units from the US because I just don't want to have to deal with customs and stuff like that, you know. I probably would not review speakers. That's way too much room. I already have enough headphones taking up room in my place. Thank you for the super chat, H. Pieman. That's probably completely the wrong pronunciation. Again, sorry. Love your channel. Got the LCD2 Classic recently, enjoying them with my EQ. What would be a leap from them? ZMF stuff, Headphone Aria, etc. If you want to continue with that kind of sound signature, I mean, it's pretty easy. You go to LCD3, you go to LCDX, you go to LCD4, but then you have to be able to put up with the weight of those. So it depends. That's the obvious route if you like that frequency response. Yep, I said LCD3. LCD3 is very, very good. LCD3 is more detailed than the 2 by quite a bit. It's right up there with the LCDX. But again, they all need EQ. Clearly this guy does not mind using some EQ, so it makes some sense. Of course, there's other options like Focal Clear if you want to go brighter. I haven't heard the Headphone Aria, but apparently that's a pretty good headphone, according to many people. I don't know. I don't remember what Max thinks about it, though. I know he's working on a review, I think, right now for it, so he'll probably be covering that one, at least. Yeah, Sundara and 4XX basically measure the same. I think they're pretty close, but like the Sundara is not that big of an upgrade over the 4XX. I think that's kind of what my general opinion about the Sundara was from what I remember at Can Jam. But for my taste, yeah, LCD1's just obvious. It's not surprising if you look at the graph I posted. Not the ears, but the gross graph. Thank you for the super chat, GTRS Chaos. Which cheap DAC amp do you recommend for connecting to KRK G3? Oh, is that the... What is that? Is that monitors? Studio monitors? And a 770 80 ohm? Cheers from Brazil. Wow. Well, you gotta define what cheap is. That's another problem. I don't know how much you want to spend for that. There are a lot of... okay, it is monitors. There are a lot of amps that have line outs, and that would help. So it depends on how much you want to spend here. Honestly, I think Max and Flux probably have a good recommendation for that. Yeah, there's a lot of options that have line outs, so I'll have found the 4XX better than the Sundara. That's another place where I'm just like, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't like the Sundara either, but that's weird. To me, at least. Microphone. This is a Rode NT1. Rode as in... Oh my god, sorry about you guys with the subwoofers. This Rode. Trying not to kill people's subwoofers. Sorry. I am talking to Olive a lot though now. Because he's very interested in measurements and stuff like that. So we'll see where he takes his sound signature when he continues to go into the higher end stuff. Because he hasn't heard anything that's like really detailed yet. He hasn't gone into LCD3 land and Susvara land and 007 land. Oh my god, I keep telling you guys I'm going to stop and then I bumped the mic. So sorry. Icon Audio headphone amps. I have no idea what that is. Sorry. X00 Ebony. Yeah, the Ebony is pretty fun. It's not that they're strictly my reference FR. See, sometimes, a lot of the times, I don't necessarily EQ things to be my exact like frequency response. Usually I'll just get rid of things that I don't like about the frequency response or boost areas that I think are too dipped. But for some of the headphones that have a lot of bass, I don't always kill the bass on them because, you know, I'll say they're bassy, but I may not correct that. So it depends. That's something you got to note about my EQ profiles. I'm not like an oratory EQ kind of a guy. Like, I measure something and then I precisely map out the EQ to like go to a certain frequency response. Yeah, that's not really what I do. Oh, that's true. He technically did hear the LCDI4. Thank you for the donation. PIOALG. You guys have some interesting names. What was I even answering? I don't even remember. Oh, what EQ am I using? Yeah, I answered that a little bit earlier. It's Equalizer APO, and I use the Peace extension for it. Peace GUI. You can just Google that and you'll find it. But you don't actually need it. It comes with a configurator where you can create the profile, and that's what my EQ profiles posted in the descriptions of the reviews actually are. That already exists, Chase. It's called Z Reviews. No, that's not the purpose of his channel. That happens a lot. Is there another closed headphone with a similar sound to the A900X? Yeah, actually, it's the ZMF Atticus. Believe it or not. If you look at the measurements from Tile for this, and you look at the A900X measurements, which actually was my A900X that I sent him to be measured, notice they look pretty similar, and they do have some similarities in their frequency response, but you know, soundstage and detail-wise, it's pretty different. Oh, you didn't see my Atticus before? People are so surprised. I guess I should just hold it up for a little while. Yeah, this is a Camphor Atticus, but it's been painted with a purple sunburst. So it's like a dark purple sunburst. It looks pretty weird. It depends on the light. And yeah, it is big. Oh, here's another one where you guys are going to want to see me wearing this, just so you can know how stupid I look at the office. Or if you follow me on Instagram, you probably already saw this, but this is what it's like to own a ZMF. It makes you look like an idiot, man. But it sounds good, so. I did see the purple Verite close, and I like that. I thought that looked really, really cool. I think I would stick with purple as my staining for my ZMFs, but the next one I buy, if I ever buy another one, would be the lighter purple there, and no sunburst anymore. This one came out really dark. I think it looks really cool, but I think I would go with a lighter purple next time. Or if I sell it, at least I know that some people find it beautiful and not crazy. Let's see. Yeah, CMF Icon are my office headphones, and I know the feeling. Yeah, exactly. They do look like knobs on my head. That's hilarious. Like turning one or the other. That's great. I like that. My coworkers know about this channel. They're the only people who know who I really am. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, stream is still going. We usually do about 2 hours at least, so we got another like 15 minutes or so. Let's see. I want to complete my Verite open with the Verite closed. I need to hear both of those. I heard the Verite open very briefly at Can Jam, not enough to get a real good idea of what it sounds like, unfortunately. But I haven't heard the best things about the closed so far, except from Headphone, which, you know, I don't trust anyway. So we'll see what happens with that. Is it okay that I collect AKGs? For some reason, I know there have been a lot of people who really like to collect AKGs, especially the vintage stuff. Like, I think more than any other brand, I feel like, maybe Grado. Some people are crazy about Grados and only Grados and nothing else. But if there's anything that I would collect, I agree. AKGs are really interesting. I love the way the K701 looks. I can't be the only person. That's kind of why my avatar on the channel has the K701 on it. I don't own it anymore, but it's nice to say that I've had an Austrian K701. That's really cool to me anyway. At least that's how I feel. And the old, yeah, actually, the one thing that I know about the, oh, let me answer this guy's question first before I go on about this. WS 1100IS versus 598C versus 599. Yeah, I would definitely take the 599 over those. Yeah, I have a 240. Do you guys want to see the Sextet and the Austrian Mark II? I can go grab it if you want to. Okay. Because they are really interesting. The Sextet's pretty beat up, but I'll go grab it. Also, this might be the first time I'm standing up on stream, so enjoy. Oh, that's the wrong box. There we go. All right. You guys are ridiculous. All right. Yeah, so there's, I have like these cubes, storage cubes, where I put other headphones relative to the higher end stuff. You guys are still going crazy about me standing up. It's funny. So this is a Sextet. I've never ever talked about this on the channel, but this is a Sextet LP, and these are the original pads from the 70s, actually, believe it or not. And you can see in here, if I can get this close enough, and the lighting just right, maybe not, you'd be able to normally see, yeah, you can kind of see it in there, the what those called, the passive radiators, hence the Sextet name, 6 passive radiators. This one only has one driver. There are some that have multiple. I don't remember which one that was, maybe the K280 or something, or whatever. Yeah, this is an original. If you notice here, it's funny, the elastics completely wore out, so this headband was just like stuck up and they wouldn't even like stay on your head. So what I did is I met some people who were actually female, and they had hair ties that I was able to get. And so I put those on each side here, and I was able to kind of hack my way back to having the headband work normally. So that's how I have it working right now. This actually does work pretty well, and I have to say the number one thing that I don't see people the number one thing that I see people not mentioning is that you have to use the original pads on the 240s, because they're way different. I think they're actually genuine leather as opposed to the new pleather K240 pads. If you put the new ones on, they have massive treble, horrible bass. You have to get one that has the original pads on it. So these don't need a lot of EQ. They don't have, they kind of sound like Tiles measurements, not really that bright. Oh my god, you guys are going crazy over that joke. That's really funny. Closed. All right, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Closed, semi-closed, or closed/semi-open. I'm not sure what you're asking there. For the Mojo Neumann. Oh, okay. Neumann NDH20 versus Fostex versus Denon, $500 something. I don't know, Max. What do you think? What's our pick within that price for a closed back or semi-closed? Emutique maybe? I guess if you don't mind some upper mid forwardness, X00 Ebony, I would say one of those. I haven't heard the NDH20 yet, so I don't know. Max knows though about that one. Anyway, yeah, no, these are really hard to drive too. They definitely need a pretty serious amp. They're not as bad as the 240 DF though. These are crazy. Oh, you're using the 6XX? Good. So now you know exactly what they sound like. They're pretty impressive. So that's the 240 Sextet. And here's what they look like now. This is an Austrian 240 Mark II with the big AKG letters on it. This is basically a 240 Studio with a different livery, like dark blue. And it probably doesn't come across very well on the camera, but yep. And yeah, the pads are much cheaper. They're just this cheap pleather. And if you put these pads on a Sextet, it will sound horrible, so don't do that. These are a lot brighter, and the mids are a lot more aggressive. The mids are really smooth and liquid on the sextet, but it's not a very detailed headphone. So they're interesting, but yeah. So there's some AKGs. I do like AKGs for collectability. Do I like the sextet over the DF? I have to say I probably would take the sextet over the DF now because it has such smooth mids. You know what I haven't heard though is the 240 monitor. Mainly because the DF has just no bass, like none, zero. It rolls off so fast. If you want to see what mine measured like, the 240 DF on Interfidelity is mine, that frequency response. So it rolls off a lot. And you can tell that it's real because the 240 monitor looks just like its FR, except it doesn't roll off that fast. So I'm not sure what they did to think that that's the 240 DF, but... So there's some AKG history for you there. But I know a bunch of people who collect all of them, like 501s and K400s and K340s. And yeah, that's right. The 240 DF rolls off at like 200 hertz. That's probably the main reason why I don't like it. The monitor doesn't have much bass either. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But it has a little bit more mid-bass hump to try to get some extension, but not a lot. I kind of want an early one. I want like a 240 EP, early production, but I don't have one. They're expensive too. Those are supposed to be the warmest ones. It's honestly curious to see what that sounded like. Yeah, the 240 monitor is surprisingly, I would say, neutral overall considering how old it is. It's pretty cool. I definitely want to try a 240 monitor. It's the only 240 I haven't heard. Best slamming clean bass planar. LCD4. Oh, no, wait a minute. Max is going to kick me because I'm not going to say HE6. So in before that happens. It's got to be one of those. I don't actually know how those two compare. Max might actually know that answer. But yeah, those are both very, very good for slamming bass on a planar. You got to have a powerful amp, a good amp, to run the LCD4. Oh, does it really have more slam? That's crazy. LCD4 changes a lot with the slam on amps, by the way. That's one of the biggest things I noticed. Yeah, as long as your HE6 doesn't die on you. I don't know how reliable those things are. Maybe they're fine. I honestly don't know. But just the fact that they're not made anymore is a little bit scary. So is my K371 my new reference lower price closeback? Yeah. The next significant step up, oh, they are very unreliable. That's terrible. Next significant step up on a, I can't say there's a significant step up above these except unless the Neumanns are okay because they're actually fully closed, which it sounds like they are okay. They're not the same sound signature as far as I can tell, though. I'll have some thoughts about that maybe by the time the next Q&A happens, though, because Max is sending me the Neumanns so that I can do a review on those eventually. But if you can go semi-closed instead of full closed, then the X00 would be the step up. And above that, you got to go all the way up to like the ZMF closed backs, really. Not the Airflow closed. Definitely not that. Oh, the comfort's not good. Oh, that's so disappointing. I really wanted to have like some $400 closed back. See, this is where the LCD1C needs to happen. I guess the Mobius is okay, but it's overpriced because the sound quality you get is not as much as what you're paying for as all the technology that's built into it. Let's see. Amp of choice. I have the 789 still at home, and it's hooked up to a S-Stack balanced. Closed back with the most air, like of any closed back? Wow, that's a good question. I honestly have no idea. I don't think there are any, like... Actually, you know what? I think I do have an answer for you, and you're not going to like it. DT770 600 ohm. Mainly because they're mega bright. I've actually heard one of those. For those who don't know what that is, that's fine because that's not a DT770 Pro. It's a DT770 Edition or Premium. They don't make those at all anymore. But holy moly, it has a lot of air, but it also has a lot of treble. So that's technically the answer. No, I don't think the EL8 closed really had great air to it. I think it just had a lot of mid treble. It wasn't that great. Yeah, the sharp headphone with the sharpest air. That has to be like a tie between the 770 600 ohm and like the 990 600 ohm, something like that. Oh, that's a good question. What's the most normal sounding biodynamic? I haven't heard the D2250, but that should be it. I will say the Custom One Pro is shockingly normal sounding as well. Very, very different than the DT770. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. 32 ohm 770, those are still quite bright. They're more like 990s. The 880 is the one with the less treble of those three. Is the Amaron wireless good? No. That's correct. No. Answer is just simply no. No, Custom Studio is based on a 770. Custom One Pro has nothing to do with that. It's a 16 ohm driver that's just tuned way differently. Custom Studio still has some of that DT770-ishness to it, although I don't think it was quite as bright as some of the other DT770s, though. But yeah, Custom One Pro is a lot warmer than those. It's weird. Oh yeah, the 177X is probably the warmest one I've heard. Probably tying the Custom One Pro. But yeah, there's no detail there to be found. So they can't seem to get detail and a good, aka not sibilant frequency response for biodynamic. This might be my favorite chat message. Has anyone tried hearing an open back in a bathroom? It has a weird echo with more air. Oh my god, you guys absolutely killed me. That's one of the best things I've ever read. That's gotta go on my Twitter or something after this. Oh man, that's awesome. Oh, Ananda BT. Yeah, I haven't heard that yet. That's an interesting one. I would never have expected anybody to release a Bluetooth open back, full size, massive planar like that. That's a really unusual headphone. That comment absolutely slayed me, man. All right, the difference between the DT880 and the HD800. The HD800 is more 6K peak focused than the DT880, I think. Whereas the DT880 is a little bit brighter in the mid treble. The DT80 600 ohm kind of is a baby HD800. Definitely doesn't have as wide of a soundstage. The HD800 soundstage, the best way I can describe it is it's some hybrid between like the K701 soundstage width and the better imaging like a DT880. I don't know if anyone really agrees with that, but that's kind of how I've always thought about it. Yeah, the custom studios, they definitely seem more EQable than the DT770, although they're supposed to be based on it. Whereas the Custom One Pro is just some other weird, much warmer thing that's kind of its own thing. Much better to hear that in a public bathroom. You guys. Oh my god. No, my HD800 is stock, actually. I tried the SDR mod once. It actually caused a channel imbalance for me. Slight, but still annoying. And that was just... I don't know. Something about the SDR, it didn't do much for me. Although some people have reported totally different results that were much more significant. It just didn't do much for me, so I reversed it. And I almost destroyed the headphone reversing it because one of the pieces of the mod disintegrated in the headphone cup. So I had this like unraveling piece of like fabric coming out of the headphone cup, and it got all over the driver, and I had to take it off the driver without puncturing. It was such a mess. Oh great, I just destroyed the resale value of my HD100. Nah, it sounds totally fine. It survived everything. I was very careful, but that was scary. So yeah, be careful not to destroy the resonators if you try to do the SDR mod on your HD100. Just some advice there. Advice of the day. Oh, that's funny. Oh man, this is gonna be the new meme. If you haven't listened to your open back headphone in the public bathroom yet, have you really heard it at all? uh, Custom 1 Pro doesn't even have damping behind the drivers. Oh, really? Maybe that's why it's so cheap. Any advice on acoustic treatment for bathrooms to maximize airiness with? Oh my god. Oh, that's crazy. You guys are nuts. I'm going to wrap this up in a couple minutes, so if we have a couple headphones here, or headphone questions at the end here, I'll take those, and then we will wrap up. You guys are killing me today. That was like the funniest thing I've ever read. K701 versus the 712. Yeah, the 701's a lot more normal sounding, meaning that the mids are not as bizarre. They've got a big 2.5K peak, but on the 712, you've got kind of a peak there, but then you've got a dip, and then it comes back, and then there's a 6K peak and a 10K. It's just a very bizarre sounding headphone. There's also a lot more bass on the 712, but that bass kind of is a really wide hump, so you end up with some bump to 200 and 300 hertz as well. So that is the main difference. Also, the soundstage is a little bit better on the 712, meaning the center image isn't as like washed out and not there. So those are the big differences. It's also more detailed, I think, a little bit, the 712. Just a little. Yeah, I'm wearing the 371 right now. I wore it for the entire thing, and my neck hurts so much. No, I'm kidding. It's because it's not an Odyssey. Oh, man. Really? Your Chinese 702 has a really good center image. Damn, that is weird. I mean, I have to admit, I definitely did not have the Austrian, anything other than the Austrian 701. The only other Austrian AKGs I've had are the 240s I just showed earlier. Yeah, thank you for the Slayer comments. I think this guy's been saying that the entire stream. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. These guys are breaking up too. Isn't this like their last, it's their last tour. Electrostats while showering. Yeah, that's really smart. Let's see. I missed the mark in labeling the LCD1 and the LCD GX. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean the LCD1 has nothing to do with gaming, though. It's supposed to be a reference headphone, whereas the GX is a headset. So I can see why they did that. Not sure about mislabeled, but I'm what you're saying is absolutely right. You're probably going to have to EQ on top of the Cypher EQ for the i3 and the i4 for it to sound normal. If you're using Odysseys, generally you probably want to be EQing something. They really don't have the best FR, I'm not going to lie. But the LCD1 is really surprisingly good at doing that in particular. Yeah, the 712 is a unique headphone for FR. It's like, I think what I said was it was one of the best flavor cans. Why does no one talk about the LCD GX? I want to review it, but not yet. I'm gonna get one though, because I want to compare it to the LCD-X and the LCD MX4. I think I said that earlier in the live stream, because they all share, I believe, the same diaphragm, but they have different magnets and such. So we'll see. And yeah, the GX just came out, so no reviews yet. I guess they weren't as excited about it as giving me the LCD1, because they know I'm an FR snob, so this was right up my alley. Basically what happened was I told Odyssey, hey, the Mobius is really close to my preference, like really, really close to my FR preference, and they're like, we might have something for you. And they sent me the LCD1, and I was like, oh man, okay, I see what you mean now. That's essentially how all this happened, now that embargo is done. So if you're wondering behind the story of that. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the LCD 2-ish frequency response for gaming either. I feel like you'd probably want something brighter and more mid-forward. An Odyssey version of the Porta Pro. How crazy would that be? That's a really small planar driver. That would probably way too much to be an on-ear, wouldn't it? I don't know. I did tell them, though, that everybody's looking for a passive Mobius, pretty much, or a passive LCD1 closed. And that's what they should be working on. So hopefully they end up doing that. Obviously, I do not work for any of these companies. I can only give them feedback. But that's what we need. Wow. Okay. When will I have the K361? Yeah, a lot of people are asking that. I don't know. It's not up to me. If AKG wants a review of it, they're going to send it to me. They said they would, but they were out of stock for a couple of weeks, so maybe I'll follow up with them in the next couple of days and we'll see. Yeah, PM3 successor. That's what we really do need. I agree. That's exactly what the LCD1 closed would be. Yeah, I know the chat got faster when I said I was wrapping it up. That's what happens every time. I want to get people to get their last minute questions in. Yes, Sennheiser should stop making closed back headphones. Because every single one they've made is just... Yeah, I haven't found a good Sennheiser closed back now that I can think about it. Either 380, 280... I actually even tried the HD 300, the new one. Bad. Sent it back like the next day. Yeah, HD 25 is probably one of the only ones, but I don't think it's very detailed. It's like on the level of the 280 in detail. It's just meh. Not a big fan. Sennheiser should make planers, yes. Now that is what I want to see, an HE600, especially because the LCD1 is giving them serious competition now, finally, for like the 660S. But yeah, Max, you should really try the 371 on shoot, and I want to see what you think about that. That should be pretty interesting. Anyway, all right. The SRH 940, yeah, I haven't heard that yet, although that falls apart. Yeah, exactly. It cracks all the time. Luca already beat me to it. Planar HD 800. I would rather see... All right, here's what I'm going to end it with. This is what I want. I want the HD 650's frequency response with more bass extension, flat, and with the detail of an LCD4 made by Sennheiser with the build, but as light as like this, 250 grams. That's probably impossible, but that's what I want to see. All right, guys. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for the ridiculous laughs. Hope all of that was entertaining and helpful. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help people. So I'll see you guys in the next review, and thanks again for being such loyal subscribers. Take care.